Hello, everyone, to the third episode of You Can Have It Too, a show about phenomenal women who've built their families, careers, friends, and have it all, and from whom we can learn a thing or two. So today's guest is Ruxana Asgar, who's the CEO of Fulcrum, which is one of the leading HR consultancies in the country. And I had the honor and privilege of working with Ruxana in Citibank several years ago. So it's a bit of a walk down memory lane for both of us. But Ruxana has done amazing things since she left the banking sector and has set up her own business. And her growth and expansion since she set up her own business has been phenomenal. She'll tell you about it herself. We're both here representing Ladies Fund, which is a network that connects professional and entrepreneurial women throughout the country, in fact, throughout the world. So before further ado, I will give it to Ruxana, our HR guru, and she will tell you a bit about herself. So Ruxana, please, over to you.
Hi everyone, good evening, Assalamu alaikum. To begin
So
with,
Ruxana, tell us about yourself firstly in 3 words.
the 3 words are a trick, so I'll try and do that, Amreen. I think it's confidence, extrovert, and executionist. That's how I see myself.
I would agree totally. And tell us a bit about the work Fulcrum does,
Okay,
and what are the different sectors you look at with your business?
okay. Fulcrum started business in 2005, and since then we have grown phenomenally. And we started off as an HR consultancy, but now we have diversified further. We are into digital solutions and IT as well. Under HR, we are into recruitment, into training, into outsourcing, projects, all that you can think of in HR. Basically, we have now outsourced close to 20,000 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have over 350 clients. Our core team is like 200 people, and we work across 100 locations in Pakistan. So basically, that's the growth in the last 15 years, and now we are looking to go international. That's
Wonderful.
something we're working on. So let's see how successful we are on that front. But Alhamdulillah, God's been kind, and we've had great success in Pakistan.
Excellent. So tell me, how did you do the transition from the financial sector to setting up your own consultancy?
That's a beautiful question, Amreen. Honestly speaking, it was a tough decision. It was a tough decision in the sense that when you're used to getting a salary each month, you don't want to sort of start off on your own. I just thought I'd had enough of doing so much for companies, and I thought I could do for more than one company, I could add value. And that was the main reason I started off with what I'm doing right now. And I think it's really paid off. It's paid off because I have had exposure across private and public sector, multinational and local companies, uh, all of it. And had some very, very interesting projects that I worked on, including retainership with PIA, a project for K Electric, a project for SSGC, and many others. Nestom was another one, which was again a great exposure and experience for me. So that's that's what made me get into something where I could diversify. The
Get more
second thing,
exposure and more
yeah,
variety.
second thing which is which you may find funny, but I always thought that no one's going to allow me to be a CEO of their company, having an HR background. So I always wanted to experience this particular position, and I made it. So
Yes.
that's what it is. If you put yourself to anything, you can make it. Believe me.
So
That's
tell
what
me,
I found in life. Yeah.
did you study HR? Is this something you had a degree in and then you got into it, or how much of your career has been made of learning on the job?
My career has been made 100% on learning on the job. I'm doing because I did my international relations B honors from Karachi University And when I finally got a position there, and it was our last days, and we were having sessions with our teachers, I asked them, "So what field do we apply for now?" And the answer was, "Oh, you can't apply now. For this field, you need to do your CSS." And I was like, "What?" Yes, you need to do your CSS, which is another 2 or 4 or 3 years or whatever. So I was quite, you know, I was least expecting that from my teacher. So I said, well, that's something I can keep doing, but right now I'm looking for something I should start off immediately as a career. So I started looking out for jobs. At that time, IT was a boom. I started looking for IT positions, but I landed in human resource by chance rather than choice at Unilever way back in early 84. And guess what? That's where I discovered that, well, this is what I guess I'm made for. The kind of, the skills or the attributes that I've brought to the table were discovered much after I got into the practical aspects of the job rather than the theoretical studies that I had been doing. So along the way, a number of things developed. I found I was a people's person. I was always pretty talkative and outspoken, but I also realized that I'm someone who people like to come and talk to, who people like to share their issues with, and are confident that the issues will be dealt with, positively, in the right manner. So that all of those things gave me a lot of insight into my own personality and skills. And from there, I never looked back. From Unilever, 7 years there, I moved to Citibank. I was with Citibank for a good 12 years. I was the director of HR for 8 out of those 12 years. That was a fascinating experience, Amreen, and you know what Citi is all about. It's the most inspiring institution I have worked for. It's an institution that really makes personalities. And I owe a lot to Citi.
It's a great
Even
training ground for everyone. I
yeah, it's
totally
a great training ground.
it's a great.
So learned a lot there, was thrown at the deep end time and again, learned how to swim rather than sink, and that's how kind of life went on. So they were always challenging you with something or the other, and as long as you came up to the challenge, you were fine. So that's what City was all about. I had lots of learnings there. Then UBL privatized, and I moved to UBL, where everyone thought I was going to commit suicide by moving to UBL. They were all asking me why I have taken that decision. And I said, I think I've learned so much that it's time to apply it now. And these are the institutions that are going to need it. The Citibanks and the Unilevers and the ICIs are not going to use my skills because they have a lot coming in regionally and otherwise. So did a lot of transitioning at UBL and enjoyed it thoroughly. I really did. Because that gave me the confidence to do what I have done after UBL. Because what I did there taught me that if I could do it for an organization, I could always do it for more than one organization.
True. So tell
And,
me,
and
right now, with this huge number of people who are working in your organization, to what extent are you managing everything yourself, and to what extent are you delegating? And was there a transition at some point
yes,
when you?
Amreen, there was definitely a transition. When we started business, it was 3 people and one office, and I was wondering when is the office going to fill, with people. And today we have 10 offices in this building plus another building next to our building. And you have to delegate. If you're not going to delegate and try and do everything yourself, you can't do it. So we have a whole team under me, and we have different sections. We have operations, finance, audit, and compliance, training, projects, the whole work. So yes, definitely a lot has happened in the last 15 years.
So tell me, Roxana, a lot of times women who are working in the corporate sector and have had a career like you in Citibank and UPL, people are scared of them. They get intimidated. And I know that's not the case at all. So you do have any stories or any anecdotes which can tell the more human side of women who are in the corporate sector? Because after all, it's a lot of fun. There are great memories as well. So, anything that you remember that stands out and you'd like to share about the very human, mundane side of a glamorous job?
So I think my first challenge came when I joined Unilever because I think I was the youngest employee there in the entire organization and a female.
Wow.
So the first I encountered was one or the other men coming around the department and peeping in, and I was like, "What's happening? Why are we getting these people coming in?" And then I was told by my colleague, actually we don't have many females in the setup, and you're one of the youngest, so everyone wants to just come and have a look at who has joined. So for me, that was the first shock. Oh, okay. So this is how this place works. The second shock came when my departmental head said, "You know what? You have to go to Rahim Yar Khan for 2 weeks."
Oh, God.
What Rahim Yar Khan? Where's Rahim Yar Khan? And how do you get there? And he said, you take a train and you go there. It takes 24 hours and you get out and someone will take care of you there and we set it all up. And I was thinking, if I don't do this, I'm gone. And if I do this, God help me.
Between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Absolutely. That means there was no looking back. I couldn't say I'm not going to do this because I'm a female. So I said, "ठीक है." But the difficult part was getting an approval from the family and
I get
taking
that.
this risk. Because at that time, Rahim Yar Khan, which is like, 24 hours by train from here, never had an airport in those days. Nobody kind of heard so much about it. And obviously, I had no choice but to say, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And that was a story which made my management believe that I'm here for a longer time. Next issue came when I decided to get married, and everyone said, okay, so now this is the end of the career, marriage, kids, and that's it. So once again, I proved that marriage, kids, and no, that's it. Life will continue. I carried on. I spent 7 years in Unilever. I got married in the first year when I joined them. So that sort of told them that I was committed to what I was doing. This commitment normally cannot happen just on your own. You have to have a lot of support. My
Yes, I can
husband,
imagine.
who was in the merchant navy on the deck side, he was a captain. He was traveling most of the time, and he kind of realized that if I was to have this kind of a career, then he couldn't keep on being out of the country because by the time I was through with Unilever, I had two sons. They had to be brought up. There was their schooling. There was a lot of attention that they required at that time. So we couldn't just both of us, be out of the house. Thanks to my mom, who's been there like a solid pillar all the time. That was amazing that my mom and dad were both there at that time. Then I lost my dad in 1994. So my kids, consider my mom their mom rather than me, which I'm not at all envious of. I love that. But the fact is that they always had someone to come home to. They weren't coming home to maids and servants. And then my husband decided to sort of give up his career and move on to something that he could do within Pakistan. So that all of that helped made me do a career transitioning. Then when I joined Citibank, again there were challenges after challenges, and again I had to prove myself. As females, we are always doubly proving ourselves. We are serious, we are career oriented. We are not going to run away. This is it. We'll show you. We'll prove it. All those kinds of things because we're always taken for granted. So we've come a long way on that in Pakistan. But again, in
Yes.
City, there are instances um, where I traveled with a whole team of 13 men across Pakistan, and you definitely have to keep a certain behavior, a certain style when you are with them. You can't lose it, and you can't be excluded or secluded in a corner. So that is again a big balance that a female has to strike. And if you can strike it, you are there.
You got it made.
The kind of personality I have, I'm open and bold and confident, and I can talk to men, I can laugh with them, joke with them, and still draw a line. So this
That's
drawing
very
a line sort of takes me back to an instance where one of my colleagues was candid enough to tell me, "Yeah, it's great fun talking to you and everything. We know if we cross the line, you will slap us. that was,
That's
that
good that
was
you got the message out there.
That was a beautiful comment, and I said, "Thank you so much. I knew I could always do that, but it's so evident. I never realized that." So I think as females, we have to ensure that we know where to draw the line. I think that is imperative. And we have to carry a style where, people know where the line without telling them where they are. So that as a female, I always felt was very important, married, unmarried, all the time.
So how have you you have a lot of support, you had a lot of support from your mother and your father and as well as from your husband. So tell me, you had a great family life too and you're close to your children. So what has
Mashallah.
been some of the most amazing moments that you remember with your family?
With my family, a
Hmm.
most stunning moment was when one day the four of us, me, my husband, and the two boys, we were going somewhere. I don't know, out of nowhere, my elder son says, "I will never marry a working woman." And I think he was 12 at that time. And I was like, "Excuse me?" What's the reason for this comment out of the blue? And he said, "They're never home for you." So obviously, that made me change a lot and give them more time, because I said if this is coming from him, then I need to do something. Um, Probably spend more time with them, take them off for vacations or whatever, have a close netted relationship with them. I'm very friendly with both my sons. I consider that a blessing because of probably the kind of personality I have. I have very close relationships with them. So then, sometime later, I reminded him of this comment, and he said, "No, I never said it. In fact, I would love to marry a working woman." And I was, "Are you
So you
okay?"
transformed him
And he was, "Of
and his
course,
name
Mama,
is
you and Dad work all your life, and then I saw you working together, and I think that's beautiful." And I said, "That's great to hear." So
that's wonderful.
you sometimes have to understand the kid's psyche and where they are coming from, at what time, at what ages. I would make extra efforts to get up from the office, pick up the kids, or drop the kids in the morning, something like that. Come home and cook for them. So all of that makes that bonding strong.
So
And
what's
it's
the sweetest thing? What's the sweetest thing your sons have done for you?
have done. The fact that they want to have females, married to females who are working and, in some way following in my footsteps is beautiful. I would
Sure,
love
that's
because
wonderful.
that gives a lot of credibility to what they have seen me do throughout. So I feel, and then again, when they would send me beautiful bouquets, etc., away from home, at my birthdays, etc., that would really make me feel very, very nice. They have spent a lot of time in Canada, both of them. The
And
elder
they're
one,
in Pakistan now?
one of them has come back, and thanks to him for that because I'm really enjoying being with him. It was a long time they had been away. The older one, I think, been away 18 years. The other one's been away 15 years. So when the younger one came back, I was thrilled. I've been trying to convince the older one to do the same, and he says, "No, no, we should always have two distinct businesses and a fallback, etc." So he's creating his empire in Canada, which is fine with me. And my son, the younger one, is expanding business in Pakistan, which again is very, very thrilling and very motivating for me.
So do you think you influenced your sons and also the fact that you were out of the house to some extent must have made them more independent thinkers and problem solvers and learn to stand on their own feet fairly early in life, right?
Yes, Amreen, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely on the dot about that. I didn't realize it at that time, but the fact that they went abroad, really did transition their personalities. The fact that they were able to put a business together, the two of them, and grow it to a certain extent. My older son had a passion for cars. The younger one started to assist him, and they grew a two-spot car dealership into over 100 car dealerships today, and moving on to 301 shortly. So all of that kind of gave them the courage. When I asked them in the beginning to come and join my business, they said, "Mommy, we will be called Rukhsana, your sons." And that's what, yeah. Their own identity. We want to have something that we are known for. We want to bring our own best to the table, and Alhamdulillah, they have been successful in doing
That's
that.
wonderful
So
to know.
that gives me a lot of fulfillment and motivation, definitely. Because I always thought that my working might, affect them negatively in some way or the other.
So initially they did resent it, but then you adapted, and in the long term, they've come to admire the model of a working mom.
That's what I think it is. Yeah.
And I think a lot of working mothers actually they make more of a conscious effort because they have less
Correct.
time on their hands. So they have to
Correct.
utilize the time much more effectively and get a lot more done in a
Yeah,
day.
I would spoil them with gifts, etc. Every time I traveled officially, and they would always run and see what come with me in the suitcases more than myself. So that was always great. But yes, you have to go that extra mile with the kids when you are working. You have to take out that extra time and spend it with them. You have to. You have to manage and balance both the aspects.
So have you, what is now, you seem to have, mashallah, this amazing life, and you've done a lot so far, and you've worked in the best organizations, you've set up your own business, your sons have set up their own business. So what is your definition of the pinnacle of success? And do you think you're there, or is there further to go?
I always wanted to have some sort of a legacy, Amreen, and I'm proud to say today that Fulcrum is known for Fulcrum and not for Rukhsana Akhtar, which is my biggest success because in the beginning it was too much Rukhsana Akhtar and I didn't like it, but now the company stands for what it brings to the table, and
That's
we
very
are definitely very very proud of it. I think I have reached the pinnacle that I wanted to, but even if I want, I can't just sit back and relax. Unfortunately,
You're not used to relaxing.
that's not after 36 years of doing
Yes.
this day in and day out, I just can't sit back and relax.
So what
Also,
do you do in COVID?
we were in the office in COVID. We had to dish out salaries to over 15, 20,000 people. I mean, we had to be on our toes because we couldn't afford for anyone not to get their salaries. We were here,
That's
although
right.
we had a skeleton staff and we tried to, manage it through that. But we would come here because, when you're so used to this, I'm not the coffee party and the boutique type person, so I have to have something to do. I can't just spend my time, doing that. So it's been
No,
a way
I
of
agree.
life. 36 years I've been doing it, Amri. Even if I want, probably I can't just go back and sit and relax at home. That won't be a possibility.
And so, if you have any advice you would like to give young ladies out there who are trying to achieve this balance, and also there's a question for you, which I'll let you know of first. Uh, Before you give those words of advice, Seema has asked, "What is the way to success?" She's asked for the road there.
The way to success is confidence in yourself. It is aiming and achieving high, proving yourself and not fearing at any time that you're going to lose it. You have to be
That's
there and you have to be at it, believe me. There is no other way for a female. Pakistan has transitioned 100 times by now, from my time. Now people actually talk of diversity and inclusion. People actually look at females to be hired. At that time, these were regional dictates from city, way back in the 2000s that you have to have a female on every senior slate, when you're hiring, etc. And or so many percentage of people have to be, females. But now this is becoming a norm all across Pakistan, and this is very much so outside Pakistan. So women stand a beautiful chance compared to what we did, Amreen, in our time.
True,
In this,
you've
yeah.
paved the way for us in some way. The
No,
generation
but
before
the
us, or
very,
the first women who worked in Pakistan,
there are
they
many
have to
women
a very
who
large
have
extent
been,
done this.
they have been bold, and they have, you have to keep at it. You can't give up.
No,
That's
I
not the
agree.
way.
And you have to believe in yourself, and the faith starts from you. So it's been wonderful talking to you, Ruxana. Thank you for all the tips and
Thank you.
anecdotes. And you're very humane, down to earth. Look back on your own life and its good moments and bad moments. And I'm so happy we had this encounter again after so many years.
Yes,
And
and we will catch it
we look
soon,
forward to
inshallah.
keeping in touch.
Sure, sure, definitely. Amreen, thank you again. You were a lovely host. Thanks for this opportunity and all the best.
A big thank you to Roxana for giving us all these tips, and from her, we have learned so much. Just to summarize, what I learned from her in her life story is that for women who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to have a great career, there are a few things that really matter. First of all, in Roxana's case, it was a lot of faith in herself and confidence in her abilities. She also had a great support network, firstly of her own parents, then of her husband, who changed his career to, adapt to her lifestyle. The third thing was she never let the fact that she was a woman stop her from doing what was necessary. Like she mentioned, she went to Rahim Yar Khan for her first assignment when she didn't even know where Rahim Yar Khan was. So, at times you have to do what's required of the job, and she never shirked or daunted from doing that. So I think that's another secret for success that a lot of women have probably come across. And the fourth thing was that she was willing to take feedback and adapt to get that balance in life. And what I found very interesting is when she related the anecdote about her son telling her that, well, I don't want my wife to be a working woman because she'll never be home. And, instead of taking that criticism in a negative way, she took it in a very positive way. And she decided to spend more time with her children. So she was very adaptive and very proactive about, resolving issues that were not correct. And she got feedback on. So I think all these factors, having that level of humility, having that level of, confidence, a sense of fun, because you have to enjoy what you're doing. So all these things are what made Roxana successful, and this is something every girl I think can probably implement in her life, at the right time with the right support network. And so a big thank you to Roxana. For her, we at Ladies Fund have a special thank you gift for Roxana's time today and being such an inspiration for all Pakistani women and women around the world. A special microblading from Mika Saloon and Spa as a guest of Ladies Fund. So Roxana, you're going to have a wonderful day out at the spa. Thank you again for being a guest on this show. And so far it's very interesting to look back, but we've had three women share their life stories with us. We've had Mehreen Nurani, who's a fashion designer. Then we had Lukna Zakhani, who owns Raintree Spa. And then we had Roxana, who's an HR consultant, very much in the corporate sector. So their careers and the sectors they work in are very, very different. But there are a couple of points, when I think back on my conversations with all these three dynamic women, there are a couple of points that, are reflected in all their life stories. And the first thing I found with all three of them, they had a lot of faith in themselves, and they had a vision. They knew it was what they wanted to do. Nobody else was pushing them and forcing them. It came from within themselves, and that's why they pushed themselves, and that's why they succeeded. All three of them have had a support network in terms of a family that's helped out with the children, for example. So that's very important as well, to keep that balance in relation so you have that support network. With all three of them, I think the other thing that stands out, they were very hardworking. There were no shortcuts in their life. They worked hard. They juggled a lot of things to be able to make it to the top and succeed. And they, again, didn't think the fact that they were a lady was, a shortcut at all. In fact, as Roxana said, she had to work twice as hard to prove herself. And finally, I think all of them have a sense of fun. They have a vision, they have imagination, they enjoy living, they enjoy having fun, and that's what makes their lives enjoyable. So that's where probably the balance comes from, that their work is not an ordeal for them or a task. It's something that they appreciate and they willingly take as a part of their overall life. So this was three female entrepreneurs who have got their own businesses and balance that with a lot of other things going on in their life. And stay tuned, because from next week, we will have Ladies Fund's own Luba Amir hosting LF Youth Talk with Hania Minhas, a dynamic 9-year-old and top tennis player in Pakistan in her category. And this is all part of a new sector that's being looked at and another series in Ladies Fund You. So for all of you out there, thank you for being on this journey, and enjoy the young lady who has as much to show you as these three grown-up entrepreneurs. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.